Dollar General has genuinely thrived since its inception in the 1950s, with origins tracing back to the 1930s. I'll cover that entire journey, but they've consistently maintained success, despite occasional setbacks and slower periods early on. Since the early 1990s, though, their trajectory has been overwhelmingly positive. Let me share some figures from the past 25 years that seem almost unbelievable. Check out their revenue chart during an era when retailers are collapsing left and right. Their sales have multiplied 17-fold over 25 years without a single year of decline. Each bar surpasses the previous one. Alongside this growth, their store count has expanded from 2,000 to more than 15,000 locations. While 2007 and 2008 saw them shuttering more stores than they launched, they clearly rebounded quickly. But the most remarkable chart, in my view, shows their same-store sales performance. It might appear scattered initially, but remember this reflects the average sales increase per store compared to the prior year. Some years hit double-digit growth, others barely crossed 1%, but all showed gains. You need to look back 3 decades to find a negative year, which I seriously doubt any other major retailer today could claim. So let's explore how they reached this position and the potential factors driving this remarkable success. The early years. J.L. Turner plays a crucial role here. During the Great Depression, he had what you might call a rather grim occupation. Back then, numerous general stores existed, and with consumer spending plummeting, many struggled toward bankruptcy. J.L. would actually hunt for bankrupt stores, purchase them cheaply, and liquidate their inventory. It's not exactly uplifting work, but I suppose he transformed a negative situation into a positive by discovering a way to profit from economic hardship. J.L. had a son, Cal Turner, who was a teen then but heavily involved in the operation. In 1939, as the economy began recovering, J.L. abandoned that venture to launch a wholesale operation supplying dry goods to surviving general stores and retailers. This time, his son Cal took on a more substantial role. Quick favor, if you found this video interesting, subscribing helps us cover more rise and fall stories like this. Kindly do please. From wholesale to retail. The wholesale venture J.L. Turner established with his son was named J.L. Turner and Son Wholesale. Not particularly imaginative, but it conveyed plenty of information. After several years, they pivoted again, leaving wholesale behind to enter retail, meaning they transitioned from supplying stores to becoming the store themselves. They found success, and while nothing extraordinary at first, their department store chain impressively expanded to 35 locations over the following decade. This probably won't relate to most viewers, but if you live in the Kentucky or Tennessee region during the early 1950s, there's a reasonable chance you visited one. The birth of the dollar store concept, but 1955 marks when they discovered their true identity and began transforming into the retailer we recognize today. It's a brilliant concept. At this time, the dollar store idea didn't exist, but something called dollar days did you occasionally see even now. It's when a retailer holds a major sale, and for that week, certain items cost just $1. Cal Turner, the son, noticed how successful those promotions were and conceived the idea of launching a store where every day was dollar days for all items, essentially inventing the dollar store concept. Actually, recalling an earlier video I made, F.W. Woolworth used very similar reasoning that led to creating the once wildly popular 5 and dime stores. This makes me wonder if you notice a particular promotion or sale that seems especially attractive or successful, it might be smart to build an entire store around it. Because here are 2 instances where that strategy worked phenomenally well. That's exactly what he did. They converted one of their existing stores in Springfield, Kentucky, into the first ever Dollar General store, built around the concept of everything costing under $1. It was an immediate hit. Over the next decade, they expanded throughout the Southeast, launching 250 additional locations. Going public. By 1968, they'd grown substantially, and Dollar General store had become virtually their entire operation, so they held a public stock offering. When they did, they deemed it appropriate to rename the entire company to Dollar General. That's the origin story. But the 250 stores scattered across the Southeast don't quite match the 15,000 locations across 44 states they operate today. The acquisition strategy. From this moment until the 1990s, most expansion came through acquisitions. It's fairly straightforward. They had a concept proven successful, and simply needed to multiply their presence. They systematically expanded into new markets, one at a time, by purchasing somewhat comparable local store chains. Notably, in 1977, they invested $8.2 million in an 88-store Arkansas chain called United Dollar Stores. In 1983, they spent $50 million on a 280-store St. Louis chain called P.N. Hirsch. In 1985, they acquired another 200 stores from a Florida-based chain called Eagle Discount for $30 million. Those three purchases alone represented nearly half of their 1,300 stores at that point. But these acquisitions cost them almost $100 million. By the late 1980s, the company determined they were overspending. Investors were losing confidence in the strategy, so they slowed down and began opening more proprietary stores. The strategic shift. During this period, the primary competition for virtually any retailer were the massive discount stores, particularly Kmart and Walmart. They were expanding rapidly, but consider this. They positioned their stores in more densely populated areas, ideally affluent ones. It makes complete sense. Why not place your stores where numerous people have substantial money to spend? And I'll explain why not, because everyone else was pursuing that strategy. Let's be honest, Dollar General has never been an upscale, sophisticated retailer. It's designed for people with limited incomes or restricted options. This is when they truly embrace that identity. Their approach involved opening stores everywhere that other major retailers were overlooking. This meant establishing stores in areas with sparse populations or low incomes, and that strategy has been outstanding for them. Core strategy. Even today, they define their core customers as low and fixed-income households, frequently underserved by other retailers. They reveal that 75% of their stores sit in towns with 20,000 residents or fewer. So when explaining their success, I'd say this represents a major component. While everyone else pursues the big opportunities, Dollar General thrives by capturing all the smaller ones others ignored. Economic factor. I don't want to stray off topic or spark a political debate, but the shrinking middle class we've all heard about. It's reportedly happening and pushing more people into the lower class, which generates more customers for Dollar General. The CEO himself stated the economy continues creating more of their core customers, which, by the way, means people with household incomes under $40,000 annually. He's also mentioned they've been able to establish new stores in areas that weren't quite economically disadvantaged enough several years earlier. In summary, their customer base is expanding, and that's boosted sales. Low-cost expansion. Also consider the cost difference of opening a new store in an economically struggling neighborhood versus an affluent one, or in a small town versus a major city. These are low-rent locations, which facilitates opening new stores. In 2018, they opened an average of 2.3 locations daily, surpassing that 15,000 milestone all within the United States. That's actually triple what Walmart operates domestically. The major difference, naturally, is store size. Walmart exceeds them in total square footage since each location averages over 100,000 square feet, whereas Dollar General is only 7,400. My point is, with all these elements, imagine how much more affordable it is to open a Dollar General in a small town versus a Walmart in a larger city. The basic store advantage. I should mention these are also quite basic stores, for lack of better terminology. Dollar General is somewhat a place you're compelled to shop at. People generally go there either because they're cheaper or closer than competing stores. They compete primarily through convenience and price. This means they don't need to impress you. These stores could be run down, disorganized, have poor customer service, anything you'd associate with a negative shopping experience, and it doesn't significantly matter. This all helps explain how they've expanded so massively and maintained low costs while theoretically passing savings to customers. The pricing strategy. That brings me to another point worth mentioning. It's called Dollar General, considered a dollar store, the first one ever. Actually, but they no longer sell everything for $1. This is where it becomes somewhat manipulative. I like to think of this as Costco's opposite. I've created an entire video about it. But Costco sells large quantities with small margins, whereas Dollar General sells small quantities with large margins. Their gross profit margin exceeds 30%, which is higher than Walmart, Target, or most other popular retailers. Like I mentioned, it's rather manipulative. What customers perceive as cheap Many prices are lower than other stores, but often it's simply because they're selling smaller quantities. In that scenario, you're typically paying more per unit. To add another dimension, 77% of their sales derive from consumables, your standard grocery items like food, soap, and similar products. But they classify those as their lowest margin sales, so everything outside that category likely carries a margin well above that 30%. Summary. To recap, Dollar General is quite possibly among the greatest success stories in retail over recent decades, and a significant part involves targeting customers others disregard. For them, it's entirely about low-income and low-population areas. That's been their strategy from the start, but they've really committed to it over the past 3 decades. And look how effectively it's performed. Some complementary factors to that strategy include an expanding customer base, low rents from opening small locations in less desirable areas, overall low costs from targeting customers who must shop there, some of the industry's highest margins, partly from selling in small quantities. Combine everything together, and it helps explain nearly 3 decades of continuous growth and success. Let me know in the comments what you think of these charts, because you don't encounter something like this frequently. But more importantly, what's your take on my explanations? Obviously, it's not exhaustive, but I highlighted factors I found most relevant in explaining their success. If you have others you consider significant, please, I encourage you to discuss them. You know what? I kind of want to test this out. They say 75% are located in small towns under 20,000 people. I should ask, is that true for you? Is there one nearby? And if so, do you live in a small town? I'm curious whether these results reflect that 75%. Also, before you flood the comments, I know Dollar Tree, Family Dollar. There are several dollar store chains typically grouped together, but I'd say most of what I discussed here is unique to Dollar General. It's somewhat a separate case that I thought warranted its own video. So let me know if you'd like me to cover the others, either individually or in a comparison video. What do you think? I'd like to hear your perspective. Thank you for watching.